I met Steve Gaynor in a bar, and he's so neat, and he writes a blog, and it's so sweet.
Idle Games, video 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 games.
It's March 2009, and Lawrence remembers Steve Maretsky's huge cock.
This is the third Idle Thumbs Conf Grenade. And I'm Chris Remo.
I'm Jake Brodkin.
And this is incredible.
And that was Hot Scoop's Gaynor.
My first name is Steve.
It's true.
Hello.
And,
Much like Maretsky.
Also, we've got Slam,
Not the only
Duncan
way I'm
Slam,
similar to Maretsky.
Fyfe.
Hi, I'm Duncan Fyfe.
What's up?
Whoa.
We call him Slam Duncan.
We do.
How's it going? Slam Duncan hit self-destruct Fyfe.
.com.
Right.
Also joining us in the Idle Thumbs studio
Peanut
audience and or Peanut Gallery is Lawrence.
Hey.
He saw a cock. And Alex Ashby.
I have exciting news about the cock. We'll get to that soon.
Oh, man.
You want to
That
just
sounds
start
exciting.
with the...
Yeah, why are we talking about that?
Well, I mean, quickly, do you guys, I don't know. You guys were at a crazy Blog Mania Blogfest.
Oh, yeah.
Is that cool?
Oh, yeah.
It actually did end up being
We're
cool.
tabling the
Nice.
cock.
Yes.
That was the sound of it being tabled.
Okay, yeah.
It's gross.
The blog thing was cool.
What was the blog thing?
Corvus Elrod and Michael Abbott of the Brainy Gamer got together, and Brainy Gamer blog. They organized basically just a dinner where a bunch of bloggers and games journalists got together at this Indian place and ate and chatted and got to meet each other if they only knew each other on the internet before and stuff. And yeah, it was a lot of fun. There was a big group there. There was like 25 people or
yes.
something like that.
It was a lot of people. And we also got to distribute copies of our newspaper.
Yes, we threw some Idle Thumbs news journals at various people.
Yes,
but,
Excellent.
But yeah, some people I've met before, and some people like Ben Fritz and Chris Dolan. No, I've met Chris Dolan, but Bobert Pfeiffer from the Plush Apocalypse, and I don't know. There was a bunch of people there that I was glad to get to talk to.
Was the Snappy Gamer guy there?
I'm sorry.
He was in the kitchen.
Oh,
What?
man.
He was
Snap.
killed before you guys arrived.
He is an Indian food chef as well as a
little
game
known fact about
critic.
snaps.
Yeah. So anyway, yeah.
snaps.
Hi to everybody who was there. It was good to meet you all.
It was good to meet you, too.
Thanks, Jake.
I was channeling just now.
You said it on my behalf. Anyway, we went to a GDC.
Yeah.
Yeah, what'd you guys think of that old GDC?
Well, what's all this I've been hearing about cock?
I'm glad you asked about penis, Steve.
Let me tell you more.
Okay, well, on Wednesday, Alex and Lawrence and I went to the Game Design Challenge, which I think we've talked about on the Conf Grenade earlier.
We didn't actually. We've not talked about a game design challenge. We talked about...
I thought we established the premise of... Anyway, I'll establish the premise of the Game Design Challenge.
Yeah, no, we've talked about experimental game
Okay.
town.
All right, well, Eric Zimmerman, who we all know, organizes a challenge for 3 game designers every year at GDC on some topic which is sometimes a fairly arbitrary construction, which doesn't maybe have much practical value. Like last year, it was design a game that an animal can play, because that might be useful to somebody. But this,
Well, to animals mainly.
perhaps. But this year, his challenge was you were supposed to design a game that was about it was an autobiographical game about your first time, meaning sex. I wasn't sure if you guys knew what first time meant.
Meaning sex.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think, well, just as an aside, I think that was a more helpful topic than can you play this game with an animal, because it is conceivably a genre that could exist in the future, even if it doesn't already exist
an
as an
actual
indie
topic.
game.
Oh, man, I can't wait.
So continue. Who were the participants?
Well, Steve Maretsky, who we've established Steve Maretsky was there.
Right.
And Suka Haro, who's the designer of Hobo Hotel.
Yeah.
And Kim Swift from Valve, who was the lead designer on Portal, was originally supposed to attend and was listed in the program guides and conference guides and everything. But we found out that, hot scoop, that she was asked not to attend and it was because of the subject matter of the challenge.
That's not attended by Valve Software, presumably.
That wasn't made explicit.
Probably not by Eric Zimmerman, though.
Perhaps not. Eric Zimmerman was not happy.
Yeah, I mean, I thought that basically they strongly alluded to the fact that Valve had said she
that's
could
true.
no longer do
Although,
it.
I mean, I just want to be careful about,
Okay,
saying that Valve...
This
stating
is
for
not
sure.
actual news, but that was the hearsay at the show.
Yeah, I'm just making this shit up.
So then they subbed in some people for
Yes, and I'm going to be horrible and not remember their names because they weren't really introduced. Their introduction was that Kim Swift isn't here. We got these people.
These people are not Kim Swift.
I think Heather Kelly was one of them.
Audrey somebody?
And she was with someone called Erin.
Aaron.
But I don't remember her last name, unfortunately.
Right.
But yeah, I can summarize their presentations briefly. Heather and Erin did a cool thing. They basically envisioned the process up to your first time, at their first time, actually, as a sequence of WarioWare-esque minigames.
Oh, man.
And they provided comical illustrations, which helped them spoiler, eventually win the challenge. Yeah, but it was stuff like you were supposed to pick out an outfit and mood music and condoms, etc. But the thing about it, music. Sorry, that was a Marek Braunstring impression. Yeah, but that was entertaining, but also not very strong as a game concept because it was more like an illustrated series of events leading up to your first time rather than, here's how you would play this as a game.
Right, yeah.
Yeah, so, I mean, it was almost like a comic book because they had like hand-drawn illustrations, which were nice. And to be fair, they had like 36 hours to put this presentation together.
Yeah, fair enough.
So yeah, it was a fun presentation, but but not strong.
What about the Habbo Hotel guy?
Well, I don't remember much about his presentation because I was at the time I was focusing on how to distribute a newspaper to the crowd to the crowd after the session, which I'm sure was where my priorities should be. But he envisioned very briefly because I'm going to get this wrong.
Something on the internet, perhaps?
It was something on the internet, Stephen.
My God.
It was something. It involved. It was sort of a social networking site. It's just a social networking game concept where people could share stories about anonymously share stories about relationships. I don't know, but their first time.
No, I'm just
or first kiss.
Yes,
or
that's
their
fine.
first kiss, and there was a lot of Web 2.0 things involved, and Flickr was in there.
Was there some sort of meta game around that, or was it just?
I honestly
here's
don't
a
remember.
Facebook thing.
Yeah,
where
I'm
you
sorry.
talk
I'm
about
horrible
kissing
at
boys or something?
recapping.
All right.
Talk. But,
So I heard that there was a third entry
but he didn't win. So
into this contest.
yeah, well, Steve Maritsky, who
He was there?
no, yeah,
Huh.
Of Zork, etc.
yes,
Zorkman.
and he was the reigning champion.
Zork.
Chris?
Well, okay. I don't know what to tell you guys other than a big penis, but basically,
Was that really actually just his presentation?
No, just Why did that
He
happen?
brought in a classic carousel slide projector and just...
all right. Well,
In conclusion...
What was his concept?
he was more focused on the autobiographical element and sort of talked talked a lot about not getting laid
it
in high
text
school.
Yeah, I was going to say, what everyone wants to hear is about the first time experience by the guy who made Zork.
Well, that was apparently the actual.
Well, yes, it was.
That was the actual
actual
premise.
assignment, so-
The assignment was do a game about your first time, not
Oh.
just a theoretical
Not-
first
not
time.
hypothetical.
Okay, and he sort of talked about what he sort of talked about his own first time. Well, he didn't actually. He stopped short of mentioning his first time, but he talked about not getting laid in high school or for a long time, and then he speculated on what genres that this autobiographical game could take, and he sort of threw up a slide of prototype first-person shooter that he made in Photoshop, and the gun was a huge cock.
Jesus Christ.
And it was aiming at a woman in a bikini.
Japan beat him to that one.
I'm sure. Anyway, that was what you were waiting for. That was the cock you have been waiting for. And I'm sorry if it was just...
Could that be the name of the episode?
the cock you have been waiting
That
for?
was the cock you've been waiting for. Jesus Christ.
I'm sorry if that
right. Well-
didn't satisfy expectations. and I don't remember much
Has
about...
the innuendo stopped yet? I can't tell.
Yeah, I'm not talking about... Meretsky didn't win, although he came very close, because Heather and Aaron,
Oh, okay.
for their funny thing. I was more concerned at that point. Again, I was more concerned with getting out a newspaper. Plus, I saw Warren Spector in the crowd, and I was excited sexually by the prospect of giving him one of these newspapers.
Did you actually?
No, he left.
I'm
He
sorry.
was. I don't know.
All right.
He bailed.
Well,
lately.
it sounds like an interesting game design challenge.
It was one of the better ones I've ever seen, and it was the only one I've ever seen.
Well then, I didn't go this year, but I feel like the further away they get from like anything feasible, the less interesting they sometimes become. It sounds like this one there might have been some cool ideas, but I feel like
I think so.
the last couple of years they
like
mainly,
thread and
like thread,
cloth and thread,
cloth and
or
thread, like that was really only interesting
filmed, like-
because the dudes involved were like Alexei Pajitnov was amazing,
Yeah.
but like that he would have also been entertaining with any topic. Like it would have been nice to have both interesting people and an interesting topic.
Did you ever hear that guy once made pants for himself?
I did hear that. I heard
Talked about that before.
It's a good story though.
yeah,
It
yeah.
deserves to be repeated.
But yeah,
Yeah.
sometimes I feel like Zimmerman just goes a little crazy. He's like, these guys are so amazing. They'll come up with anything. But it's
Yes.
like, well, if you
Right.
rein it in just a little bit more,
Well, I mean,
it's pretty easy to come up with an impractical pitch.
Yeah,
for a
I
game.
think that's actually a little bit more charitable than. It seems like it's sort of celebrating his own cleverness at coming up with really wacky stuff more so than this will really show how crazy these guys are. I don't know. Yeah, but something like the premise for this one, or like even the Emily Dickinson one and stuff. Like
Right.
there have been good premises. And
have
this
been.
sounds like
It's-
it was one with actual potential.
And I do think that people like Steve Maritsky get more into making their presentations entertaining. Yeah. And Heather and Aaron was like that also.
The best ones are the ones that are entertaining and also secretly are
Also
pitching a really cool
interesting,
game.
yeah.
That's true.
That's hard to do. That's rare.
Yeah.
That's really
and it
rare.
didn't
Yeah, I remember
happen.
the Emily Dickinson one, 2 out of 3, wasn't it? It was that Molyneux, Clint
That
Hawking,
was-
and Will Wright?
Yes.
Jesus Christ!
'Cause I remember
forgot what an amazing lineup that
Will
was.
Wright and Clint Hawking's were both really cool. That was the first time I'd heard or seen Hawking.
Yeah, that was actually the
But,
first time I ever heard of Clint Hawking. Was like
Clint Hawking.
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 Was just buzz over that game design challenge. But
Yeah.
He must have been starting Far Cry 2 right around that time.
no.
Here's the thing. Speaking of Clint Hawking, he was talking. We have not covered Hawking's talk.
Hideo Games.
Yeah, that reminds
So,
me
yeah.
of Clint Hawking's talking. The Hawking stalking.
Good old Hawking talk.
We might be stalking Hawking.
We were talking about stalking Hawking.
Speaking of Hawking talking. Stalking Hawking talking, Clint Hawking.
Right. That guy.
That guy totally
Dive.
was rocking.
He
Shocking. Sorry, I'm kind of mocking this discussion.
wow.
All right, fine. So I'm not that funny. You got me.
It's true. Clint Hawking did a talk this year. And it was cool.
Nice.
Yeah.
Yeah, I liked it too.
Yeah. So what else is going on, you guys? No.
Yeah.
It-
He routinely does amazing talks at GDC. So
yeah, and I especially thought this one was
Yeah,
interesting.
we talked probably before GDC about how we were excited to hear Clint Hawking's talk. Ing.
Yes, we were.
And then some of us got to actually see it.
Except for Jake.
except
Yeah.
for Jake. Oh snap!
One could say I was excitedly blocking time for the Hawking's talking, but instead I was picking up a newspaper.
Yeah, which we all appreciate. But let me tell you about it since you didn't get to be there.
Yeah.
I've heard about it.
Yeah, I know. Well, then never mind.
Oh, you can say some stuff.
Oh, okay. It was he basically started off with his 2006 presentation as sort of a touchstone. He called it a sequel to that presentation, which was about designing for intentional play, which is like planning the player being able to plan their own goals and then carry them out. And then he compared that to what happened with Far Cry 2.
Yeah, which was intended to be that.
Yeah.
But ended up as they were kind of going through the development process, it became clear that obviously Far Cry 2, and anyone who's played Far Cry 2 knows it contains a fairly broad spectrum of different systems. In addition to combat systems and AI and weapons and so forth, there's the malaria, there's the buddy system, there's the like mission structure, which is somewhat dynamic. There's all sorts of things.
Yeah.
And also someone who's played the game knows that many of those systems end up being kind of minimized, relatively speaking. Mainly the things having to do with mission structure and the buddy system and so forth. Like actual player initiative ends up being less important overall. And sort of just moment to moment combat is, I think, probably for most people the most significant aspect of that game.
Yeah.
As they realized that, they started deliberately during development trying to encourage a type of play that would put the player in a relatively short phase of what they called composition, like the sort of intentional play, like building up to what you're going to do, working out a plan, and then an execution phase. Shortening that execution phase with some kind of interruption, some kind of crazy thing. You're weapon jamming, you get malaria, something explodes in your face. There's you get shot in the face, etc. And then kicking you back to having to quickly formulate a new plan.
Yeah.
And
he called it improvisational play.
Right.
Where intentional play is very much planning, like long planning based, and then sort of very intentional execution based. They discovered this kind of rhythm that was bouncing back between planning and execution and reassessing to plan again and execute it, that they call it kind of ongoing improvisation. And then once they discovered that was sort of what was already happening as their design evolved, they looked at ways to really emphasize that. And that's where Far Cry 2 ended up.
Yeah.
And they talked about, how now they sort of discovered that naturally through the process of developing Far Cry 2, just thoughts on how to actually intentionally, as a designer, create that improvisational experience, from the ground up.
There was a cool bit of circularity there, I think, in terms of they're having a fairly specific goal in mind for the overall kind of pacing and style of gameplay, the very intentional play, realizing that wasn't what the game design was turning into, and then essentially improvising their way as a development team into a more deliberately improvisational game. I thought that was sort of just a meaningless observation, but I thought it was kind of cool that there was that a bit of a reflection there, kind of a microcosm of like what was going on in the game itself. Macrocosm, maybe.
It's a cosm.
A cosm of some sort.
A cosmos.
A cosmos. And I thought it was interesting. As anyone who's played Far Cry 2, well, I shouldn't say anyone, but certainly when I played Far Cry 2, definitely what I got out of it was, I mean, that game, you could see shreds of kind of the original design in there for sure, but definitely what I...
Sweet
you
licks.
Some sweet licks, yeah. Exactly. But what I definitely got out of it was that crazy sort of ping-ponging in the moment-to-moment combat where a fucking wrench is thrown into your plans, like to an extreme degree, and you have to improvise your way out of it.
And the point that he made was actually supporting that, not just by fucking over the player frequently, like gun jamming did, but also putting in mechanics like the buddies saving your ass to let you be safe and recover from that instead of just loading your game. But
like Chris just said, a lot of things about Far Cry 2, the finished game, make a lot more sense to me now that I've heard that talk. And one of those things is the mission structure in that game. I became really frustrated with those missions after a couple of hours into the game, because it seemed like they were all, no matter who you did them for, they were basically go to this location and shoot this guy or object, then return for your prize.
Yeah, they definitely are.
Actually, you don't even return for a prize. I'm sorry, I made that up. But
your safe house is
Duncan's
upgraded.
doing a bit of improvisational game design right here.
Yes.
Far Cry 3.
Ooh. Anyway,
Far Cry 3 Return for the Prize.
I had
Your prize is ready.
But there was originally supposed to be a purpose, for a greater purpose for the missions, and that the mission, say, to assassinate the police chief, would have a
There
global.
still kind of is, but you have to play it through a lot of the game to.
Okay, I haven't finished the game. But killing the police chief, which is an early mission, would have a global effect on all the troops of that faction. Their morality would morality? What am I trying to say? Morale would decrease. And you could, by taking out, doing a different mission that would destroy a faction's medical supplies.
Well, I'm pretty sure that actually does still happen. It's just it's not very obvious to the player.
Well, no, he said it got cut
morality
entirely.
and their medical surprise.
They still have,
Fuck you.
They definitely still did have like the reputation stuff.
Right. But he said that they cut like impacting health and morale entirely.
Yeah.
So I
mean, that's a sad thing, but
yeah. Us talking about a Cosm and a Cosmos and an Osmos reminded me of the GDC Awards. Did you guys talk about the Osmos guy at the awards yet?
It's totally ripped.
Oh.
Did we talk about that?
I think.
Yeah.
Okay.
We even made an "I'm the governor" joke and stuff. We got that in.
That guy's the fucking governor.
Yeah.
So
That's a shame, but we can talk about the IGF itself, possibly.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, because we spent some time in the IGF pavilion at the expo hall.
Yes.
Checked out some games.
You checked out Zeno Clash, a combat
I
simulator.
checked it out. Yeah.
What did you think?
I bought that game, so I'm hoping you'll tell me it's good.
Did you pre-order the game?
I pre-ordered it. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well,
Game recommendation
No
advice.
one's played it yet. I think.
What?
You've played it.
It's not released yet, right?
No, I'm just saying
Yeah.
I pre-ordered the game. I already
Right.
paid money for
Yeah.
it. Yeah.
$14.95.
Well, I paid 10 because they had a 24-hour sale on pre-order sale on Steam for that game.
Oh my
And I figured $10 is sort of at the point where it's like
Steam
I'll
is
just
just
fucking buy a
such a
game.
deal.
That's
It's filled
true.
with
Well,
steals.
10 is a pretty good. I mean,
A Steam deal is called a steal.
I know.
Yeah.
Right. So Zeno Clash, for people who haven't heard of it or checked it out yet, is this super crazy first-person action
Melee.
game. Not entirely,
Oh, okay.
but yeah. Melee. It's
Melee?
it's
Melee.
Melee. It's a crazy, like, a Chilean game. It's a group of, I think, like, at least the core group of guys is like 3 guys, like 2 brothers and one of their friends down in Chile that just came up with this game that it's a first person action game with a super insane like art style. It's really
It looks really cool.
it's really, it looks amazing, and it's really difficult to describe. Like, it has sort of this demented fantasy, sort of like
Weird
alternate
surrealist
reality,
fantasy, yeah.
surreal fantasy. Just like really strange creatures that are like dudes with elephant heads
It
and
kinda
guys
reminds
with
me
all
of
sorts
some
of
of the,
weird
like,
bone armor and
some of the French take on weird surrealist fantasy stuff. Like I wish I could point to specific examples. off
Like
the top
that
of my
video
head,
of that
but-
little French girl who talks about the rhinoceros.
Oh
who
man, I was thinking
dies.
about that, but that's a hilarious thing to bring up. Yeah.
But yeah, so anyway, you can look it up on the internet to see images of it. It's got an incredibly unique visual style, and it's a mixed melee and shooting game, but I think melee is the main focus, and basically the game is split up into a bunch of arena spaces where you as the player have to fight off a number of enemies, that either come up and try to hit you, and you can block and you can dodge, and they can do the same stuff, and you can break their block and do grab moves and everything. And some of them have like crossbows or weird sort of archaic fish guns and stuff. So there's there's some
What?
yeah. You can dual wield 2 guns that are
Oddworld
made
Stranger
out
or
of
something.
like
they launch
the bodies of fish.
Oh, do they launch a fish?
No, they
They're
shoot a
made-
bullet
they're
or a
made out of
pellet
fish,
or something.
yeah.
Jesus.
Duh, get with the fucking program, Jake. Jesus.
Blow your nose. So I tried it at the IGF award, and I mean the IGF pavilion. And I saw one of the developers playing it, and he was obviously an expert, and he was playing some advanced level where he was like fighting off 4 guys at a time, and they're
With fish?
He did use fish at some point.
Nice.
I didn't see that. That's sweet.
Yeah, so that was impressive, and then I played the tutorial, and it seems like it has a pretty enjoyable combat system that is sort of, I guess, most similar to like the Chronicles of Riddick melee system.
Interesting.
Where there's
Possibly Dark Messiah of Might and Magic. Did you play that?
Yeah, I played the demo of that. Yeah, I guess you're right about that. That's another similar title, but it's much more like those than like Oblivion or something.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Which seems a little bit more limited in your options in combat.
Yes.
Yeah, I mean, Oblivion's not much of a melee game in terms of systems. It's more of sort of level up your.
Yeah. Well, I mean, you could do strong and weak attacks, and you could block, right? But it just felt like there's lock on in this game, so you sort of Zelda style. You can lock onto a guy and then circle strafe around them just by pressing left and right, which I think was also true in Riddick and stuff. So between the art style and this sort of interesting gameplay mix and very focused structure of having these arena fights and stuff, seems like it'd be a lot of fun.
Yeah.
I think. Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
I was just going to say that I watched Steve play the tutorial of this game, and what I liked about
So
it.
you're basically an expert.
Yeah, I'm going to talk about it with authority. What I liked about it is that the first like combat action and directed Steve to perform was that it said, hey, now let's see you kick some chickens. And then Steve kicked some chickens with a sickening crack, and they went flying into a tree, and there was blood. And he did that. He did that a couple of times.
Did they all come and attack you?
No, they didn't. They were just they're chickens, Chris. They don't attack
That's
you.
less so.
But he was the guy telling him to kick these chickens was a sort of bulky fantasy monster guy standing in the middle of this grove. And after Steve had kicked the chickens around for a bit, he's like, "All right, you kick some chickens around. Now it's time to fight me." That's all I have to say. But it was an awesome level progression. And
Sweet.
Chris, did you see anything else at the IGF that?
I unfortunately
Pleased
didn't have
you?
very much time. We were only there for a few minutes.
I also played another melee fighting game with dodging and timing, and it was called Punch Out for the Wii.
Oh, that's true.
The full name is Punch Out for the Wii.
I don't know what the actual full
They
title
meant to
is.
type for the win. but
It's just called Punch Out with 2 exclamation points, isn't it?
Yeah, which
Possibly.
I'm pretty sure they're going to the classic thing there.
And I definitely fought classic enemies, which were the exact ones from the old game.
Yeah, definitely
classic
the same
Nintendo
thing. It seemed
move.
very much like the same game design, pretty much.
I haven't played like the NES version most recently. I mean, whatever, in years and
No, I
years.
haven't either. Yeah.
I don't know if it's closer to the NES or SNES
Oh, good
version.
point. Yeah, I don't know.
But
I don't know at all.
those were kind of the same game as well. Like, they had a lot of the same characters.
Yeah, I
in
mean,
them.
it's basically
There were a lot of
you've got-
extra
you've got the
characters in the SNES version, but
Yeah, different directional attacks, and you dodge out of the way, and you go up these enemies that.
yeah.
You punch a guy.
Yeah,
You get stars that you can do uppercuts with. It seemed enjoyable.
pretty fun.
I wanted to play more of it when I was done playing it.
It'd be interesting to see if they added on a head-to-head mode with this. It seems like you could do it. I don't know if it'd be super fun for a while, but
Yeah.
Super fun shout.
Hey!
He's back.
Super fun shout. Amazing.
I think it's called that.
I could see them doing at least local
I could see
head-to-head.
calling it super fun shout.
If nothing else,
That seems feasible in my mind. But I don't know. I didn't ask them or anything.
Yeah, I didn't either.
One other thing that I saw in the IGF booth, and I wish I could remember which game this is, but it was one of the indie stands that was unattended. And there was a little sign by the keyboard that said, "Back at 3:00, puzzle."
That was Mightier. That was the game.
Mightier, okay. Yeah. And the puzzle, the word puzzle had a little arrow by it, and he had cut up some laminated bits of cardboard, and they were just lying in a jumble.
It was like a piece of paper that looked like it had said...
It was a logo or something,
Yeah, some kind of logo, yeah. That was.
Yeah, and I think Chris and I saw that and both got mad, like, fuck this guy.
Oh, I didn't get mad. What, really?
I got mad.
What? Why?
I got mad
why.
because then I wanted to do the puzzle and
I
solve
did
it.
too, but I wasn't mad.
No, that's true.
We both started trying to collaboratively solve the
Look
puzzle.
away from puzzles.
And got nowhere.
Yeah.
I don't think we connected more than 2 pieces before.
This asshole game designer, he tried to make a fun puzzle for me to solve.
Fine.
Ass.
I wasn't angry at all.
That's true. I guess I was like, okay, I'll do this puzzle, and then I got mad at not being able to solve the puzzle.
Said, I'm angry.
Did you throw the pieces on the ground before leaving?
No, that would have been lame.
Yeah.
Oh.
That was an amusing thing to do. Like
That
for
game
back
looks
in 5 minutes.
interesting,
I played it on my
theoretically.
computer the other day.
Which game, actually?
Mightier.
Ah.
Yeah, the demo for it is on Steam,
Yep.
right?
Uh-huh. It's basically a game where you can you've got a
Steam's
little dude.
full of such good deals.
I know this demo is free. I mean, crazy.
Wow. Like shareware.
Yeah. You have a little guy that goes around a planet and has to collect jewels at various heights, like different height levels, like 1, 2, 3.
Yeah.
And you draw patterns in the ground to raise up the ground, and you essentially have to embed land masses within land masses to rise up out of the ground. And allow
that
you
sounds
to
cool.
reach, allow you
So let
to
me get
reach
this
these
straight.
things.
You have a guy who goes around a planet.
Yes.
Okay.
With a jetpack.
Okay, good. That's you cleared up.
That's key,
You cleared up
exactly.
which game this is. You got a guy.
Exactly, right.
No, but that actually sounds cool.
And,
Yeah,
and it's interesting.
There's some crazy shit, where you draw on paper and then scan it
Yeah.
in.
Oh, it's that crazy game.
Right, and you can print out your patterns as
That
well from the
thing.
game.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's pretty crazy. You can also draw stuff and have it rendered as your character. Like you just draw line art, and it will just turn it into like an embossed 3D figure.
An embossed 3D lens flare outer glow.
Right, exactly. Yeah. And
I haven't played it, but I only saw the demo video for it, and if it actually works as well as it seemed to in the video, where it was like, draw a weird blobby stickman and scan him, and then our game will figure out how to animate that. Like, that blows my mind.
Yeah.
Blobby stickman.
Well, I mean, that's been done with like Drawn to Life and stuff like that.
Yeah, and Graffiti Kingdom.
And the imagination of a child.
Yeah, but I mean, the thing is that's all done with the actual game tools in the software.
That's
this
true.
thing like reads hand-drawn line art and interprets it, which is it seems impressive. But I haven't actually tried it myself yet.
I haven't either, but you can play the main game mechanics without doing that stuff.
Yeah,
but it would be cool. I'm interested to try the scanning and printing. Yeah, some of the IGF stuff is pretty rad. I wish I would have had more time in that. Did either of you guys end up going back after we?
I didn't have time.
I think when we played Punch Out Wii was when I was headed back to the IGF pavilion and got distracted by Punch Out.
Right. Yeah,
That's not indie, Steve.
It's not indie at all, but I did.
You're not indie. Fuck you.
I did
Ooh.
fight Glass Joe.
Yeah,
You did.
I fought.
You fought the Kaiser.
I fought Kaiser. Correct.
Yeah.
Yes.
Did you win?
Yeah, I whooped his ass.
I don't think-
I uppercutted the shit out of him. One cool thing that I didn't expect about Punch Out on the Wii was that they do like locational damage on the enemies. Like if you punch a guy in the
that's really
face
cool.
a lot,
Yeah.
he'll get like
He'll get
a big
bruised.
like bulge on the side of his
He'll
face.
knock out a tooth.
Yeah, or if you punch him in the body a lot, he'll get a bunch of bruises on his stomach and stuff, which it was cool. It seems like the kind of thing that Nintendo wouldn't necessarily do, but it's great feedback for like how you've been playing and how hurt the guy is. So
It actually did. It wasn't obviously graphic in any way, but it definitely was sort of like, ugh.
It was
Man,
a little,
that guy's beat up.
yeah, it
Like,
was grittier than I would have expected because it was just
black
like
and blue blotches on people's
Yeah,
skin.
here's what a guy looks like after a rough ass boxing match. And I noticed that when you won against the Kaiser, who you had had a pretty tough fight with, that you turned around and you were happy and stuff. And but Little Mac had like bruises all over his face, or like red marks from being punched in the face multiple times. It was pretty great.
It was a very un-Nintendo thing, but it was really cool. It was
And we know exactly who will be buying this game.
Yeah,
I know,
and then on the other hand,
people
there
who
are
at least 25 years old.
Yeah.
Like,
On the other hand, there are little chickens that are chicks that rotate around your head and then puff away into little clouds of feathers.
It makes me a lame-o for saying it, but it's kind of the Team Fortress 2 thing.
right.
Yeah, I can see that, yeah.
That is a good comparison. Yeah.
I mean, even
less extreme than that in both directions. But
right,
yeah.
but I mean, even how Team Fortress took the things that were sort of implied things that you assumed about what were happening in Quake World Team Fortress and
Like what?
and dressed them up really nice, like rocket jumps or running really weird and all that stuff.
Yeah.
This game is taking the sort of stuff that was implied in that game and giving it a really clever additional layer of
It was definitely a detail that made me want to play the game more,
Right.
you know, because somebody was paying attention to that and went for it, even though it's totally non-essential, you know. So
I thought you were referring, Jake, more to the sort of aesthetic
Oh, that's also true.
contrast of like Team Fortress 2, this classic sort of like 50s era advertising artwork, very colorful, and then you shoot a guy and he gives in
that is also
4
totally
bloody
true.
pieces.
I actually was.
And the game informs you where your head is on the ground.
Yeah, I guess I was saying two separate things and started them with the same thing. But I agree with both things that I said.
Nice. Good times. I'm glad to hear that you're in agreement with yourself.
But yeah, the sort of clean look that then just gets beat up is very much like when the medic comes by and he's just or whatever.
Or anyone else.
Me. He's just so contrasty.
It's true.
That's smock.
Hideo Games.
We like the word Hideo game, and we thought you should know about it.
It's 2 words.
It's
Duncan.
1 word.
Hideo Games is
Hideo
2
games.
words.
Hideogamy. That's my pronunciation.
Ludonarrative dissonance?
Woohoo.
I quit.
Me too.
Me too.
For now.
Oh wait. So does that mean the break is
I guess
Video games.
Yeah, and with that, we're back.
So during the break, I had an interesting experience. We're recording this on, as we may have noted in an earlier podcast, on a pretty high floor of a hotel building.
Grand Hyatt in beautiful downtown San Francisco.
Can I say the room number?
Sure.
1209.
Oh, he just did.
It's coming from inside the room.
by Stephen King.
I was out. Sorry.
So anyway, where I am sitting right now in this hotel room, I'm facing the window which overlooks
Another hotel,
or I don't know, possibly other residential building. And there's kind of just at eye level, there's a woman who's sort of, I don't know, she seems like she's packing or something, but I guess we had
Duncan is observing her.
I am, and it's creepy, and I think she's having another staring contest with me right now, but she's looking out at us in our hotel room and
now
wondering
all 4 of us are staring at her.
and wondering why there are
she
4
stopped.
douches with microphones talking about giant cocks.
She can actually read lips. It's really weird.
This is like Rear
like-
Window.
You look up and you see her mouth. Steve Moretsky.
Yeah, so that was
So,
just
yeah.
a weird thing,
That's a
and
good
it
story.
explained
We-
why
we-
I was paralyzed for 4 minutes in fear. Anyway, reader mail.
It's because we have a live audience of that
It's
lady
true.
across.
And 2 dudes on the bed.
Well,
Reader mail.
Reader
Oh,
mail.
right, reader
what?
mail.
Oh, a reader sent us a
Hey,
mail.
sometimes they do that, and then we read it on a podcast.
I got no
or
problem with that.
Conf Grenade.
Or a Conf Grenade. All right, so Greg Stearns writes, "Hey, Thumbs, you know what game is getting the butt? Jesus, this is already a thing for
Wow.
readers today. I'm pleased. BIT.TRIP BEAT. Hey, I agree. It's kind of a shame
What the hell
that
does that mean?
Well, he'll tell you.
Getting
Getting the butt. Oh, we were talking about that.
Listen
yeah,
to a
2 days ago.
podcast, Steve.
It just means like getting the hi-hat.
Oh, okay.
It's kind of a shame that there doesn't seem to be any support behind this game. I totally love the playstyle. It mixes the difficulty of the 8-bit era with the attention to detail and flow of a modern game. The visuals are great, the minimalist style goes well with the rest of the game, but at the same time serves a gameplay element, especially later in the game where they use the effects to really fuck with you or when you're about to die, and it reverts to the stark Pong style. That sounds rad. Being a rhythm game, the sound is the most amazing element. The fact that when a note makes a sound when bouncing off anything on the screen makes for really complex rhythm and chord structures that are all dependent on you keeping the whole thing going. It makes a really addictive experience that actually rewards me for my effort and pulls out the perfectionist gamer in me in a great way. I'm afraid of overselling BIT.TRIP BEAT a bit because I'd hate to see the same backlash flower or braid saw come and bite it in the ass, but its complete lack of attention bothers me. Anyway, keep the scoops hot, Greg. Just one Greg.
Wait, did he say skiddly doot bop?
He said keep the scoops hot.
Oh, okay.
Keep the scoops hot.
Skiddly boop bop,
Skiddly
though.
boop bop.
Greg.
That's, that's what I thought.
Sicto. Yeah.
They are keeping me quite warm. This fucking room is not air conditioned.
It's true.
You're wearing a jacket too, Scoops.
Oh, Steve's
Whoa.
taking it off.
It's getting
That
hotter.
lady.
She's enjoying the show.
She's not.
She's in for quite a medical surprise.
Yeah. Have any?
What?
Just leave it. Have any of you played BIT.TRIP BEAT?
I actually haven't, which is a shame. I
Yeah,
didn't even
because
realize
you
it
were
was out
super
yet.
psyched about it.
I was, but I
You
didn't
need
know
to pay
it was even
attention
out.
to the internet. I knew it was
didn't.
out,
Oh, I didn't.
but I didn't tell you because I thought you would probably kind of like the Mirror's Edge thing. I assumed you probably already would
I
have.
don't actually keep
known.
up as much on that kind of thing anymore for some reason.
Because you don't like video games.
There's always so much stuff that I have in my backlog that I sometimes forget to keep up with when things are coming out.
But yeah, we're proving this guy's
His
his letter
endorsement,
true.
Yeah.
In fact,
It's true. It's not. It's clearly not getting the attention.
we
it
were all
deserves because
excited
we're
for
not
it.
even.
We haven't
Yeah.
played it.
Exactly. So
We're horrible.
We might be lame.
Are you a reader that has played it? Write
Yeah.
to questions@idlethumbs.net.
Yeah.
And
But everything he describes.
we'll read something
sounds
very
pretty
similar
awesome.
to that
sounds like
last letter
exactly
again.
It sounds like exactly the kind of stuff I love in games with music. Like I enjoy sort of traditional rhythm games, but what I think is really cool is games that use gameplay that's rooted in sort of more traditional video game kind of tropes, and then actually integrates them directly with music, where they sort of just quantize everything and have it accompany the music in an organic way. I think that's like a really exciting path of game design, and
Yeah, quantization fucking rules.
it's awesome.
Yep, it's good stuff.
Yeah.
Quantize.
I love it. So anyway, that guy says this game does it and is cool, and I probably will agree with him when I play it.
I think I'm probably not the only reader who wouldn't know what that word meant unless
Oh.
you had told me before at an earlier
Okay,
point.
so quantize means essentially to take. It's sort of the temporal equivalent of like a vocoder. So it takes the like actions and then splits them into like granular time periods so that it matches it to the nearest like eighth of a beat or 16th
it's like
of a beat or 32nd
snap
of
to
a beat.
point.
Yeah,
Exactly.
it makes the things you do line up with the beat, sort of
Exactly.
like Res, for instance.
Yeah, like Res, exactly.
Yeah.
Like your shots in that game are quantized. Like
Yeah.
they will blow up on the
Right.
beat no matter what.
Yeah.
You can quantize to a finer degree than that.
Right.
But yeah. Like
Cool.
it sounds like in this
in
game,
a rhythm game, you would probably quantize to the rhythm.
right? Exactly. Well, directly at the rhythm, right? Like Rock Band or something
Probably
gives you a little bit of leeway.
Yeah,
as
give
to
you
when
a
exactly
window
you
and
press
then-
it, right?
yeah.
But no matter when you press it in that window, you'll always hear it directly on the beat.
Yeah, because it's actually unmuting.
Well, right. In that case, yeah, that's not even
A
so much
song track,
quantization
but-
as it is just like hitting a switch.
Yeah,
Yeah.
But in any case, BIT.TRIP BEAT. Someone
Yep.
might want to play it.
Maybe it will be us. All right. So another dude, Spanky McGee, writes, Idle Thumbs.
What a name.
I know. Quoting, this is a fairly epic email here. Quoting your February 12th
You should
podcast.
summarize it.
This was me talking. Chris talking. I like that the...
What? Wait.
Okay. This guy who's writing us is quoting a thing I
Chris
said in
Remo.
February 12th.
Oh.
I like that the Citizen Kane of video games came after the Star Wars of video games. That was me speaking facetiously, in case there's any wondering about that. He writes, Peter Molyneux predicts The Godfather by 2016, and we know Killzone 2 is Citizen Kane. More attempts to graph the history of movie development and video game development onto the same racetrack to more easily compare milestones. These comparisons usually are chronologically careless. In 1915, he writes, poet Vachel Lindsay published The Art of the Moving Picture, which seeded the notion that movies were an art form. Even at that early year, Lindsay had great films and great film artistry to discuss. If we try to apply consistent standards of narrative skill and visual and emotional sophistication, some movies a century old shame some video games. I wouldn't, or all video games even. I wouldn't argue that we should apply consistent standards. But Peter Molyneux's prediction raises some questions. He says, I think by 2016 we're going to have a truly amazing story which will be cited as the equivalent of The Godfather on film. So to paraphrase or interpret, this game will be, I can't read. This game will be to previous games what The Godfather was to previous films. Doesn't this suggest that video games then have already produced Rules of the Game, Greed, Bicycle Thief, Broken Blossoms, Sunrise, Ugetsu, Wild Bunch, Breathless, and, yes, Citizen Kane, which itself in 1941 already rested on a quarter century of movie art? Did I miss these games? Hasn't Molyneux jumped the queue? Perhaps Molyneux's prediction is more ambitious than it sounds. He might be predicting that not only will 2016 witness gaming's Godfather, but all those intervening milestones will be produced before 2016 in the next 7 years. We will soon witness an incandescent 7-year flowering. As a promising start, Resident Evil 5 is apparently the video game's birth of a nation.
Spanky McGee, everybody.
This guy wins. All right.
Yes.
That is an epic email.
It is. Molyneux's comments, he concludes, raise two other thoughts. First, The Godfather is not great just because of its story. Second, a simple story never hampered Harold Lloyd. To couch this all into a question, how about it? More importantly, are you ready for the Renaissance? Thanks for your time on your fine program.
I feel like when anyone ever says this is going to be the Citizen Kane or Godfather of Gaming, they don't mean it's going to be relevant for the same reasons. They just mean it's going to be more awesome than usual.
Right. Yeah, this thing's going to be fucking sweet.
Yes.
Is what they basically mean.
Well,
I mean,
except for Molyneux did specifically say, we'll have a game that has storytelling equivalent to The Godfather.
Well, okay.
He said like Godfather level of
we have
storytelling.
The direct quote right here. So,
excellent.
He says, I think by 2016 we're going to have a truly amazing story, which will be cited as the equivalent of The Godfather on film. So that's actually a pretty ridiculous.
I don't think the games though need to sort of be shackled by the linearity of film. So
No, I
mean,
don't
we
either.
could get the Godfather game now,
Yes.
and then we'll get
Or the Godfather 2 game.
Whoa.
right.
I mean, weren't we discussing that possibly in 2016 we could be up to The Godfather 5 or 6?
Yes.
EA's The Godfather 6?
Yeah.
Yeah.
The
Godfather
EA is
6
the
would be
Godfather 6 is the
Godfather-
Godfather Part
Yeah.
2 of games.
Yeah, I think that is just the fallacy there is just assuming that the pinnacle of meaning in games is going to be a linear cinematic story that
Right.
it resonates in the same way that something like The Godfather, like it's such an unequal comparison that it's weird
And to try to apply it,
It's the Whistler's mother of games.
Exactly, yeah.
Yeah.
No one ever does that, but
Yeah.
it's sort of equally as ridiculous.
Yeah,
which-
and I mean the awesome thing is that there was a great presentation about this that I'll mention briefly on Wednesday by Margaret Robertson, who was the editor in chief of Edge for
I'm
some
sad that I
time,
missed this.
and now she's a consultant, and she was basically just talking about how a lot of people naturally assume the cinematic mode when they think about story and emotion in games. Like, we need more emotion in this game, so let's make a really great story like a movie has and shoehorn it into our game. And she just talked about a lot of really, clear and awesome ways to convey story and narrative elements through actual game stuff that's native to the game form,
Like
instead
writing
of
the words "The Godfather" on the HUD of your game, or having a Godfather poster up on the wall of a guy's room, along with the Scarface poster,
or projecting the movie The Godfather onto a texture and letting the player walk up to it and watch it.
Right. I think these are the opposites of her suggestions. But
Yeah, so she had a lot of great examples that were basically more economical and interesting ways to tell the player what the identity of a place is, or what sort of the the characterization of a person is than just making a linear movie style cutscene about it. So I hope that on some level Molyneux is right in that maybe 7 years from now we'll have a game that people feel is as affecting as something like The Godfather, but because of things games are actually good at, and not because of what The Godfather was good at.
Yes, I agree.
No, it's completely true. I mean, the way Molyneux phrased it makes it even all the more preposterous, I think.
Got any more readers' mails?
Yeah, I do have one right here from
Nice.
Daniel Hajarpa. Daniel from Sweden.
That's no Spanky McGee.
No, it's not. I'm sorry, Daniel. Okay, so he writes,
So sorry.
now that both Red Dead Revolver Redemption and a new Call of Juarez have been announced, I'd like to know, how much did you love Outlaws from LucasArts?
A lot.
Yeah, same here. Personally,
Not at all.
You ask. Personally, I think it's the best Western game ever made. It has every
It's the
environment.
best Western of
Yeah.
games.
This is the Grand Hyatt of podcasts, though. So.
Well, we're podcasting from the Grand Hyatt.
Well, I think that's the same thing, right? I mean,
It also might have been the joke.
Well, anyway, the best Western of games.
Personally, I think it's the best Western game ever made. He says, it has every environment and weapon you'd expect from Western, and it also sports an amazing Ennio Morricone ripoff soundtrack, along with great 2D animated cutscenes. He's right. Why hasn't anyone made a Western-themed, first-person, massively multiplayer online simulation? Holy shit. It'd be the best-selling game of all time, right up there with The Sims.
I don't know.
All right,
talk
this
about-
guy is
Steve looks
insane.
skeptical.
I'm pretty sure he's kidding. Please talk about some Western games. Jesus Christ. Med Vanlig Halsnig, Daniel from Sweden.
Yeah, I really enjoyed Outlaws, although I enjoy that all the stuff that I probably liked about it is all the stuff that we were just poo-pooed moments ago.
No, it's totally true, yeah.
Well, here's the thing. I was aware of Outlaws for quite some time, but since when it came out, but I didn't play it until I found a copy of it at like a flea market 2 years ago or a year ago or something. So I played it.
Hold up at all.
Outlaws aged immediately. It was already behind the time.
I played it for the first time in 2007 or 8, and just like going back to the build engine was insanely painful. But that said, it just like even the levels and stuff just weren't as interesting or good as like a Duke Nukem 3D level, which they're using the same tech, But also, I loved the stylization
I don't know if
the.
Outlaws actually used build. I think it used the Dark Forces engine.
Really?
Yeah.
I think Jake, you're right.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Well, they're both very similar
They
in
do-
that
They're
they're
they're competitive.
they're
They have the
2.5D
sprite-based enemies and
and
they're-
all that stuff, but even I love the stylization of the characters in like Full Throttle, and the stuff in the Outlaws cutscenes is like the guys have arms that are down past their knees and look like weird orangutan aliens and stuff, and the animation
sort of-
isn't very good.
yeah.
So it just kind of made me sad, but maybe I would have thought it was sweet in
When I played it at the
1996.
time,
Yeah,
I
at the
thought
time I
it was
played it,
pretty rad, but
I hadn't played a first-person shooter
Yeah.
that had that sort of stylization and that was so far apart genre-wise from
Doom and
sci-fi
Dark
or
Forces
sci-fi
and
or
right,
sci-fi.
yeah.
So,
Yeah.
Like it was right up there at the beginning.
What, you hadn't played Hexen?
sorry, or fantastical fi.
Heretic?
Yeah,
What? Isn't it Heretic?
Yeah, it is.
I know.
Anyway,
Heretic, Hexen, the sequel to
for
Heretic,
some weird
Heretic
reason-
2.
For some weird reason, this isn't actually related to the guy's email, but it reminds me, since this is a Rockstar game, since he mentions Red Dead Revolver, which is a Rockstar game, did you guys see that Max Payne 3 was announced by Rockstar Vancouver?
No.
No.
Yes.
Yeah, wait, I did see that.
I wanted to ask
I
the
saw
Rise
Rise of
about
Max
that
Payne?
since Steve
I saw it now too.
liked Bully from Rockstar Vancouver, and wondered if you had any thoughts.
Rockstar Vancouver.
Wasn't that from them?
I believe this product by Take-Two Interactive may be a
Oh.
lovely piece of
I
software.
didn't even think about that.
I'm sorry, Steve.
Sorry. Okay. Anyway.
I mean, all I know about it is they released one piece of concept art of Max Payne's face, and that it exists, and that it's by that studio. And
Oh, yeah. Well, I didn't mean
I
if-
did think
yeah.
Bully was an awesome game. I loved what they did with the town and the place that took place. That was a great sentence.
I love what the
Be-
place of the place.
I like it. But the
Steve like place.
yeah, the Bulworth Academy and the town that surrounded it just had that amazingly evocative feeling of like a fairly small like northeastern town that it incredibly felt like it was a place that was built in the mid-century, because like the architecture and all the stuff felt like it was kind of old and had just kind of persisted and aged. I don't know. The environment was great, and it went through all 4 seasons, so they redid it all with like you know the falling leaves in the
Foliage
fall,
and stuff,
and the snow in the winter and everything, and all of the characters there, you know, changed clothes in every season and everything. Like the passage of time and the identity of the place was just unbelievable in that game. So
when Max Payne inevitably takes place in a northeastern college preparatory school,
Right, he's gonna have a nice scarf on when it's cold out and stuff.
he apparently will be that homeless guy that was in the town in Bali, according to the concept
Okay.
art. They went the Haggard direction with Max Payne, according to that concept art.
So
Like-
both Splinters, both what the guy's name, Sam Fisher and Max Payne are turning into hobos.
And Ethan from the Condemned games.
Oh, yes.
Yeah, I mean, there's just been that one image,
Hobos are a trend.
but he
these
had
days in
like
games.
gray scraggly hair and was all
Three total.
wrinkled and stuff. So it seems like it
Three's a trend.
must take place some years down the road.
Right.
I'll be interested to see what they do with it.
I really liked Max Payne 1 and 2.
Yeah.
Those games were weird. They didn't like sort of make a huge impact on me in terms of like giving me tons of like crazy stuff to think about, but they were such good, well-paced, like really fun shooter adventures. Like it was
Max Payne 2 is like exemplary of just, I think, just how to make a good sequel.
I agree
because it was
completely,
basically it built on everything that was good about Max Payne 1 and then just made anything that wasn't as good much, much better. And even the stuff that was good, it made that better.
It's true.
I thought.
Yeah. I agree completely.
So yeah, those games are great.
Yeah.
Max Payne 2 still holds up. I replayed part of it like a year or two ago, and good stuff.
Speaking of games that do not hold up, and also of Western games, I never played Outlaws, but I did play Freddy Pharkas Frontier Pharmacist.
Oh man, the Al Lowe game.
Yes, and I think I remember I liked that a lot when I was 11, and now like almost all of Sierra's games, I find it embarrassing.
They do not age well.
No, they don't.
Especially compared to their competitors, the LucasArts games.
Not at all.
Which I could play a million times.
Yes,
Yes.
same here. Yeah,
And have.
and also I have, yes. Yeah.
Anyway, read a mail.
Did we ever talk about the Maw? I don't remember.
I played the demo for them all.
Yeah, I
Speaking
forget if
of
we talked
Western
about it on
games
the
that don't
podcast.
hold up, the
Well,
Maw.
there's another
Oh.
email about that. So,
What's the email about them all?
well, I'm gonna read it.
I dare you,
Trevor
motherfucker.
Shelder writes, "Love the podcast. Keep up the great work. Steam recently added the feature to pay and download more content for a game you've purchased, and today Apple." Okay, he obviously wrote this.
Oh, we've
couple
read
weeks
this
ago.
email before, I think. We didn't talk about the Maw, but we...
Yeah. Oh, yeah. He was writing it because of the Maw.
You want to just talk about the Maw,
Yeah, let's
Chris?
talk about the Maw. We already did read this guy's email a while ago, but Steve is being weird over there.
I was just reading a newspaper while I waited for you to finish not reading an email.
Yeah, sorry about that.
Continue.
But yeah, I did mean to talk about the Maw before because I did buy it a couple weeks ago. It came out on Steam and I picked it up. It's a cool platformer that relies heavily on your character controlling a secondary character that you have sort of a tether. You have sort of a leash that you drag him along on. And much like Kirby, he can eat enemies and then take their characteristics.
Right, steal their souls.
Steal their souls, exactly. And that's used to solve puzzles in various ways. And at the beginning of the game, it's basically just makes him able to do fairly simple things and kill more enemies and light things on fire. And then it gets weirder later on where he sort of becomes a balloon and kind of flies around and can sort of dive bomb enemies.
Did you play through the whole thing or just a lot of it or some of it?
No, I played through several hours of it.
Yeah, it's a relatively short game, right?
From what I've heard, yeah. I haven't finished it yet, but yeah. It's pretty cool. It's a nice, you can tell it's a very indie game. Like it's got...
Well, I played the demo of it and the production values are actually, relatively speaking, quite high, I thought.
Oh, no, it is. But it's like, it's just a very, it's hard to explain, but it's, you would never play a game like this that's like a big budget thing. Like it's very much, it's cool. It's like, I say that in a good way. Like it's a cool, like very focused kind of little thing that's like this weird.
But also has like nice animation and good creature design and all that stuff. Yeah.
It's a nice, colorful, cool looking game. And,
I played the demo and didn't want to play more of it because it made me sad and feel bad.
What? Really?
Because the entire game is you escaped from like this spaceship where they were holding you captive and everything, and you're tethered to the Maw, which is just a purple creature with a horrible like sharp-toothed mouth that wants to eat everything, and then you just have to guide it around the world eating these pathetic innocent adorable creatures that haven't done anything wrong.
That is kind of weird. I agree.
And it actually, like, it was all cartoony. It wasn't like revel in like, ha,
Right.
he
It's
bit
not a
his head off.
sadistic right.
But it is kind of sadistic,
Well, right.
like
I mean, it's
because
not
basically
outwardly sadistic, but
you
you get
don't.
that
It's
sense,
not
yeah.
purely. It's not purely. You don't purely eat them for puzzle solutions. It's not like go find
See
the
them
one.
grow.
Yeah, you don't go find. You don't just have to get the one specific creature to get the power you need to get past the puzzle. Yeah, you have to make the maw big enough by just eating like a dozen little fluffy, nice creatures, and it just grossed me out that I was like, I guess I crash landed on this planet, and now I'm making this horrible, awful little monster eat all these nice things. I just didn't. It was not pleasant
the kind of
for
the
me.
tears ended with
Yeah,
the maw.
I can understand that. I had the same vibe, but I sort of just, I don't know. I sort of put myself in a position where I was just sort of playing it purely mechanically. Just because a game like that, usually that's what I'm playing it for anyway, but I do know what you mean, like 100%. It does. It definitely.
You saw through the superfluous presentation to the.
Well, it's true that it does have a weird thing where you are
They're just
essentially.
blocks. It's not really a person, Steve.
Yeah,
Get over yourself.
Just numbers.
Games.
Just ones and zeros.
It's true. When are we gonna get that Godfather anyway?
Huh.
But yeah, this character is just this weird, insatiable hunger. Like he only exists apparently to eat things.
Yeah, and
grow
to eat
larger.
nice things that are no threat to you and are just
Right.
trying to graze on grass.
Right.
Like, I don't know. Yeah. So, they, like I said, they weren't like thinking that was badass or whatever,
Right.
but
It's not
just
presented in
as a dynamic, I was just sort of like, ugh.
You're saving them from being encased in robotic versions of themselves by Dr. Robotnik.
Eggman, please.
Dr. Eggman.
No, Robotic Nick is way better.
Robotnik.
Robotic Nick.
Dr.
I
Robotic
prefer
Nick.
Robotic Nick.
I like it.
That was his original name
Yeah.
before he became a villain.
Robotic Nick. He was like,
Yeah, it was his blues moniker.
oh, Nick
Yeah.
just loves kind of fooling around with the robots and
They call
stuff.
him
We
Robotic
just-
Nick.
Yep.
It's Robotnik. Okay.
All right, Nick. Whatever you say.
Sometimes I wonder about that Robotic Nick.
Yeah, so try the maw and see whether,
Yeah, see whether
it makes you
repulses you.
feel weird or not.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. Oh, and then they apparently released some DLC for like $1.25 or something. I haven't actually played that because I haven't beat the main game yet, but apparently they did that.
Dual Maw.
Nice.
I don't know if that's what it actually is.
Dual Maw.
Yeah.
Yeah, probably it's not that.
Got any more mails?
Let's look. We have a bunch of tiers emails, but I think we're going to do those out
We're
later.
stockpiling those tiers.
Yeah,
The GDC isn't over yet for us,
it's true.
so we should
it
hold
lives
off.
on in our
We're
hearts.
sort of in
yeah.
tier stasis.
All right.
Yeah, I think that's mainly what we have. So.
Sweet.
All right.
Thanks for listening
Thanks.
to us.
Thank
Castabiles.
Jake will now go die.
Baboo!
It's loose!
Video game.
I just realized
that both of my
What?
biceps
I wrote
are
Esco
sore from
Steenberg's
carrying around those
cool
fucking bundles of newspaper
Steenberg's
2 days
cool
ago.
tools.
You have news arms?
This is
The guy
finally
of
caught
the
up
cool
with me.
tools.
No, I have
The
news
inventor of the cool
soreness in
tools.
my
Really?
skinny ass
Yeah.
horrible
Wow.
pussy arms.
I didn't know that.
Who did
a
you
news
think
arm.
Cool tools?
How the fuck would I know?
Okay. Because that came out of his lecture.
heavy.
Can't hold it.
I don't know about using your other, like, wimpy arm to sort of...
What the hell is going on over here?
Now this circle jerk can get underway.